Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums. We're staying in Canterburyville, another Canterbury prog band for you. Short-lived, but one of the earlier ones. This is the kind of like the power trio known as Egg. Egg were on the Durham Records debut album 1970. Of course, the band comprised of Dave Stewart on keyboards, Mont Campbell on bass and vocals, and Clyde Brooks on drums. Kind of a three-piece keyboard-led trio, basically in the mold of the Nice and ELP, which kind of debuted right around the same time, but mainly driven by the keyboard work of Dave Stewart, who of course would do all sorts of other things in various other bands in the Canterbury scene throughout the next few years, and a good chunk of the 70s. He would pop up all over the place. Keyboard extraordinaire. They got 3 albums. They got the self-titled Egg, the Polite Force, and the Civil Surface, and I'm going to rank them as I like them. All right, and we're going to start with my number 3 album, which is going to be the debut album, simply titled Egg. All right. Again, Durham Records, 8 tracks on here. Dave Stewart, Mont Campbell, Clyde Brooks. Again, if you're into the keyboard-driven stuff of the Nice and ELP, this is probably a good next place to go. Although not as much vocal-oriented, obviously, as ELP. But if you want like weird and bombastic and all that sort of thing, you come to the right place. Stewart is clearly the star here. I mean, his organ shines on While Growing My Hair. Campbell's vocals are fine, but they're nothing spectacular. I always found his voice was the weak link in this band. And you really notice it on this album, more so than the other two. I Will Be Absorbed has some pop and jazz leanings, blended with more of those big, fabulous organ tones. Again, Stewart gets a workout throughout this album, and then he comes right in with Fugue in D minor. Killer. All right, nice classical leanings on that. Really good. The guy's such a player. He moves over to piano on They Laughed When I Sat Down at the Piano. Why not? If you're mostly known as an organ guy, you play piano, they might be surprised. Pretty cool. You got the drummer, Mr. Brooks, blasting away throughout the Wild, the song of McGillicuddy, Pusillanimous, or however the hell you say that. Easily the most chaotic track here, all right, especially on side 1. Side 2 comprises the 20-minute epic called Symphony No. 2. And if you love to hear organ, Stewart completely delivers here. There's even some really frightening tone generator. He does like a weird tone generator noises on all these albums. So that's in there as well. Good track. Maybe a little too long, but take some of the best of it. There's some great stuff going on. Like I said, this album is a total Dave Stewart showcase. Really good. But man, this is about as non-commercial as it gets. And I would say some of it is not overly musical, and it's not for the faint of heart, but if you are into this sort of thing, obviously you probably already love it or will love it, and organ lovers definitely need to tune into this one. To me, out of the 3 Egg albums, it's the one that doesn't work for me as great start to finish as the other 2. There's still great moments on here. It's not a perfect album by any means, but still really good and a great part of this scene, an important part of this scene. Number 2, I'm going to go with their final album from 1974, The Civil Surface. Third and final album. This one's on Caroline Records. So this comes after the band had broke up after The Polite Force, their second album. So here a couple of years later, they get back together. Dave Stewart's got a couple tracks he wants them to kind of work on and do some ideas that they maybe were working on after the second album. So let's get back together, put out an album, and then kind of call it a day because he was already off and running onto other things. A wealth of guests appear on here. Steve Hillage is on one track, a bunch of other people as well. It opens up with Germ Patrol. Typical sounding Egg song, prominent organ. Brooks' drumming is pretty high up in the mix. There's a lot of good drumming on this album, actually. Nice symphonic flair to it. I think more so than some of their previous works. I think it is a really, really good, well-composed song. I really like it a lot. A must for ELP fans, I would think. Then you got Enneagram, which, again, Stewart's organ taking on like a Emerson-style flair. Really, really good. Prelude, It's kind of filler, not much going on there. But you got Stewart again cranking out some cool organ tones and noises and things like that. But Ring Out the Ground is a pretty strong track. You got some vocals on there from Mont Campbell, which again don't really add much to the song. If you omitted it, it would have been perfectly fine. But man, the rhythms and the organ work are really good. You got Hillage dropping in some of his glissando guitar stuff, which is really good. You got Nirch, decent enough. It's got like all these guest horns and woodwinds on the last two tracks. It's a decent song. Wind Quartet 2, it's okay. It's kind of throwaway. Again, more so about the woodwinds than anything else. Not terrible, but it's like it's not really the band, right? The other three guys don't have much to do. It's like let's bring in some guys to play woodwinds, bassoon, and things like that. So I don't know. I think there's some really good ideas on this album. It's a tad unfocused, but I think it's a little bit more listenable than the debut, in my opinion. And my number one is going to be their second album, The Polite Force, from 1971. Again, on Darum Records. Same trio, obviously, but you got some guests on trumpet and sax on this particular album. And I think, to me, this one is the most cohesive out of the three. You got A Visit to Newport Hospital, which kicks it off. Excellent song. It's kind of organ heavy at the beginning, but then it gets a little more atmospheric. Melodic vocals comes in. You get some electric piano, which airy electric piano, airy organ, and then more distorted electric piano and organ. I love the way Stewart goes back and forth between the more like kind of like the cleaner sounds and then add some filth to it. I think it's really good. He does that a lot on these albums. Really, really cool. Love that song. One of my favorite songs in the catalog, actually. Contra song, quirky, jazzy, got horns on it. Wouldn't sound out of place on a Hatfield in the North album, actually. Pretty cool. You got the vocals following the arrangement. They're not great, but they're serviceable. Again, another band where probably like if you would have ditched the vocals, might have been better off. You know, I think the only band out of all these Canterbury bands where the vocals really helped things was Caravan. But I think most of the other bands would have been better served as instrumental acts. Just my opinion. Let's see. What else we got here? Boylk. Boylk is weird. It's got like water sounds, and then church bells, and then Mellotron comes in, and then angry, noisy tone generator, all sorts of other weird sounds. It's noisy and bizarre, but that's part of the charm of this band, I guess, right? And then you got Long Piece number 3 takes up all of side 2 of the album. Lots of jamming. I think both Brooks's drumming and Stewart's keyboards are nicely laid out. Could it have been trimmed a little bit? Maybe, but the playing is absolutely superb. You know, a lot of good stuff on here. Like all three of their albums, there's lots of good material on here. Some puzzling stuff. Some of the arrangements could have been tightened up a little bit, but you know, you gotta love some of the playing on here. And there's some genius happening, but it's like they're just trying to figure it all out. And the band breaks up shortly after they do this album. So again, kind of like when I did the Hatfield in the North ranking, it's like I find that if I were to take like all the really strong stuff from these three albums, that makes up a pretty damn great album. But there's some stuff on all three of these that don't quite work for me. A lot of experimentation, a lot of weirdness, but some of that. But you know, I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it for Dave Stewart's organ work on these albums. I mean, really, really great. There's some great drumming as well. Mont Campbell to me is kind of like there's not a lot of really impressive bass stuff that really stands out, and his vocals are kind of hit or miss for me. But the drumming is great, and the organ work is terrific throughout all three of them. So yeah, so I'm going to go with The Polite Force, my number 1, Civil Service, my number 2, and Self-Titled Egg, number 3. But rank them as you like them down in the comments below. Let us know what you think if you've never checked them out. You know, maybe some of these bands are a little bit very obscure to some of you if you're not long-time big prog fans. So I would say approach some of these with caution. Go give them a listen. Some of these bands are not for everybody, but I know the people who appreciate this stuff really love this stuff. There's actually a lot of prog fans who, like, you know, they're kind of, yeah, we love the greats, right? We love Genesis and Yes and ELP and Tull and all that stuff, but we really love this more underground, obscure stuff, right? So there's a lot more of this where this came from. So yeah, so let us know what you think down in the comments below. Rank them as you like them as well, and visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together. all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below we got the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, our Cameo page, and the Sea of Tranquility membership options. All that stuff is listed down below in the video description. So thanks in advance for all your support for those of you who do, and we'll see you soon in just a little bit for another Ranking the Album show. This time it's Henry Cow, so stay tuned for that. I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.